Last weekend was fallback and we got an extra hour. I wish we got an extra hour this weekend as well, and every other weekend thereafter. Let's see what we have on the program for today. We're going to do a little bit of a review, see where we are. We're going to talk about abstracting the article, and just a note on Zotero and what's coming up for next week. This is our program. If I look very carefully, I see we're around about here, and pretty much like Bon Jovi, we're halfway there. And not that much needed to be done for today, this week. We can see there. Test number 2, and submit the name of your target journal. Back to our definition of applied professional article. I've changed this 1,400 to 3,000 words. That's what I think the sweet spot is. And for fraud intelligence, the closer to 1,400 you are, the absolute better. Here we go again. Sidebars at the bottom. And I will just show you an example of a sidebar in something that I wrote. This was my original article. You can see the title there, and it was published in Managerial Auditing Journal. And the two advantages I said of our course, number one, the book, in fact, talks about academic articles. And number two, what we can do is we can take a published academic article and turn it into a applied professional article. Watch very carefully. I talk about the findings. I talk about fraudulent numbers, and most often amounts that are round, have strong period-over-period growth. I talk about thresholds, and I mention 7 attributes of numbers that fraudsters like to use. The first one, most often amounts that are round. I took that finding by itself, used new examples, and turned it into a pretty good Journal of Accountancy article. You can see the title there, and you can see that this is May 2018, which is after the date of acceptance of the previous article. Well, get back to sidebars. This is not exactly on the side, this is in the bottom. And here we see an extra bit of reading, and the way I would define the sidebar or the bottom bar to be, you can read it if you like, or you can skip it if you like. The main message of the article is in the body of the article. This is how to calculate round numbers in Excel. And my second sidebar here, how to properly log large round numbers, is a formula that you can use to decide what a large round number is, based on, of course, your data set. And again, it's a case of, it's an optional read. Read it if you like, or you can skip over it. I'm coming back to something we've said before. There it is. One of the gems, and the other one again on page 175, where we talk about our work having to fit in with the rest of what has been published before. We like to talk about successful people, at least successful people in our field, and you can see the name over there. And we're talking about Columbia Business School, and let's see exactly how famous he could be. If you go on to LinkedIn, you will find him under this name, an abbreviated form of his first name, Shiva Rajgopal, 11,000 followers. His posts are absolutely excellent. He is an endowed chair professor, having previously worked at Duke, Emory, and the University of Washington, all top schools. And just as a side note, There was a time for about 30 years in which Columbia Business School did not tenure a single assistant professor and promote them up to associate professor. Everybody had to leave and find tenure somewhere else. A pretty tough school, if ever there was one. This is the article. I've posted it onto our readings list. It's absolutely tops. Management Science, undoubtedly a top publication. You can see the title over there, and I'm just going to go through the bullet points 1, 2, and 3. Here we go. I argue accounting research and academic research in accounting has strayed from producing work that is useful to anyone. 3 criteria. Number 1, how many products and processes have accounting research produced in the last 50 years? Nada. Number 2, how much overlap is there between issues that CFOs and CEOs worry about and our published research? Overlap? Nada. Is the science or the knowledge in academia in a particular area ahead of that of practice? Are we leading practice? I couldn't say no in a stronger term. This should be an embarrassment for our entire profession. Let's go and have a look further. And again, this is management science, and this is the opinion of an extremely competent person who has succeeded. Why have we strayed? PhD students in accounting programs at the top schools are well trained in economics and finance, but not particularly curious about how accounting institutions and financial statements work. We know econometrics, we know accounting and finance principles. We don't know much about actual accounting. I have heard from colleagues at other schools that assistant professors are well versed in the academic literature in accounting, but can barely read or make sense of a company's 10K, which is the annual financial statements, or internal accounting systems. Again, not my opinion, somebody at the top of the totem pole. Let's go through these one by one. New PhDs and faculty are more interested in methods and corporate finance economics questions. Go to the Journal of Accounting and Economics, read the titles of the papers, and you will see that this is completely true. Number 2, managerial accounting research is arguably the most relevant to practice, but harder to publish in the top journals. He's saying harder, I'm saying near impossible. Practitioners do not care about the average firm as much as researchers. And so this is absolutely true. We tend to show that this happens to be correlated with that. And so on average, firms will tend to do this. But real companies aren't concerned about what firms do on average. They're more concerned about specifics. Top journals publish about 150 articles per year. Very little of that work has practical or policy impact. Focus on applied work is not seen as scholarly enough by the profession and hence penalized. I received some emails before the start of this class from some of you asking why we're doing applied work, because it doesn't count as much at your institution as scholarly work. Therefore, this sentence is particularly important and applies to a select handful of exactly you. Focus on applied work, not seen as scholarly enough, which is why I open up by saying the reason the course is important is because you can take a scholarly paper and turn it into an extra publication as a derivative work. And number two, the book is all about scholarly publication. Accounting hesitates to work on normative questions. So what exactly are normative questions? Normative questions are the best way or ways to do things better. I've really struggled to publish my work on exactly that. Descriptive work, we don't like that either. Descriptive work, we talk about how the world works and how accounting works. Reluctance to work in large teams means we don't tackle big questions. Generally, we like to work in teams of 2 or 3, and that's why you see 2 or 3 authors on papers, and they don't work on big questions either. Dismissing applied work as consulting mischaracterizes research at a business school. More on applied research versus consulting, and I will let you read that last bit by yourself. You can, of course, just pause the video. And again, practical, hands-on stuff is seen to be the domain of consultants. I'm just looking at my notes here. Very little of the work has practical or policy impact. The other note I have here is that's pretty much impossible. Unease with descriptive work. Descriptive work talks about how the world works. The world of business is ever-changing, rich, and interesting. There is considerable value in accumulating knowledge about what actually happens in the field. Which process innovations have worked and which have not worked in a particular context and why. If I get back to your first drafts, I enjoyed reading your first drafts. However, I do need to note not a single one of your drafts even mentioned the remotest possibility of actually talking to a real professional in the field. You're writing this at your desk and doing some or other sort of study. But as for talking to a real accountant, a real CPA, a real partner of a firm, I didn't see as much of a whiff of that. And indeed, I work with companies. I will be back there on November 19th. And exactly what I do, I talk about my research to them. I try out my methods and algorithms on their data. I see what works and I see what doesn't work. Proposed mechanisms to address this divide. Let's have a look. Number 1, get the professor to spend the sabbatical year with a company. And amazingly, the Securities and Exchange Commission has got a program by which they will take professors for half a year or a year. The PCAOB have something to that effect, but he says, how about going out and seeing what actually happens? The school identifies a list of companies willing to support studies by faculty. A good idea there as well, and that is exactly what I'm going to do on November 19th. I'm looking again just at my notes. Faculty members discuss a burning topic in the business press, a good point as well. Faculty presentations to alumni, you can see that as well. I absolutely enjoy the YouTube videos that I watch. It is uploaded by Stanford University, and what they have is a reasonably regular breakfast session, and at that breakfast session they accumulate executives who arrive, and a faculty member talks about their research, and of course the research that is relevant to them. Connect with donors, use op-eds and press articles, and if you go back to last week's lecture, we spoke about Dana Hermanson, and if you go to his resume, exactly what you are going to see there is lots of op-eds and press articles. And he was proud of that. Writing a jargon-free version of the paper for practitioner journals. How about this? Exactly what I like to do, and exactly what I showed you just a few minutes ago. I will show you another example of that before we're done today. Using practitioner co-authors. Absolutely great idea to discover emerging problems in practice. Again, if I go back to your studies, I did not see a whiff of a practitioner floating anywhere around any of those documents. Consider it for future use. I have a publication in the Journal of Forensic Accounting. I forget exactly what the journal title is, but I collaborated with a practitioner, and the way it worked was I really wrote the article, but he supplied the data, and he got permission for the data of his company to be used in the study. A nice way to get data, quid pro quo. Conclusions. There's a huge gap between accounting research and practice. We can use rigorous academic methods to solve policy and practice issues. It is possible to do it, and it would be mutually beneficial. Talks about the profession. Publish and celebrate research of use to policy and practice. Get faculty closer to the trenches in the real world where business decisions are taken. You can pause the video, you can read the whole paragraph, and I just remind you again, he is extremely credible. Why do I say that? Let's go and see some of his recent publications. Here we go again. Management Science, A+, forthcoming. AOS, an A+ journal, forthcoming. Management Science. Management Science. Contemporary Accounting Research, A+, Canadian-based journal, forthcoming. Management Science. We rate Accounting Horizons as an A+. It's extremely hard to get published in that journal. Again, Bridging the Gap, you can find it, forthcoming. Contemporary Accounting Research, again, 2024, A+ journal. He knows how to publish in A+ journals. He can do it. He has done it. So he's done the academic side. He's now taking a step back and saying, hey, let's actually start producing something useful. Here's an example, which I promised you. This is Current Issues in Auditing. You will find it on the website of the American Accounting Association with their journals. Summary. You can see the title. You can see 3 authors. And here we go. Opening sentence, a recent article by, oh, 1, 2, 3, those same authors, investigates this. The current article summarizes the study for practitioners. In other words, they published that article in 2023. They are now writing a summary of the study for practitioners. Here we go. They get a second article out of their first article, and that's the way to go. Double dipping comes to mind, but they're saying what they're doing. And I think this is a nice, something useful for the profession. So current issues in auditing, you can go and look at the online early articles, and what you will see is a number of these summaries for practitioners. Well, if that wasn't bad enough, let's go have a look at this. Ral Ball, the author of a study, Ball and Brown, and if you want to Google it, go to Google Scholar, Ball and Brown, 1968, cited by 13,000 people. He's about as famous as they come. You can see he's worried about two things. This and earnings management is rife. And what he's basically saying is, in all our earnings management or financial statement fraud articles, it seems as if they find out that earnings management is rife, and in reality, it isn't. There appears a widely held belief amongst accounting researchers that earnings management, financial statement fraud, is rife. And indeed, when they do these cross-sectional studies, you almost need the attribute to be rife in order to find anything. And he's saying publishers blatantly false positives. To prove this, he says, how many researchers have actually sent a list of their most extreme discretionary accrual behavior to the firms, auditors, the press, to analysts, or to boards, or to regulators? In other words, we have a study, it finds something. How many times did the author actually send that study to auditors, the press, analysts, boards, or regulators? Again, nothing. And those researchers should hang their heads in shame. If a researcher has and that's my comment. If a researcher has reliable evidence of financial statement manipulation, is there not a moral obligation to inform the parties, as well as those responsible for acting on it? I say, yes, there would be a moral responsibility, but what they're finding is drivel. That's why they're not sending it anywhere. Another one. I've corresponded with him. He's nice to write to. If you have a point, you will find him online at Temple University. And let's see what he says as well. How can accounting researchers become more innovative? What I've done is I've published this one and Ral Ball's commentary in your readings folder. Read it and ask yourself, is there a better way to start doing things? Well, let's get back to the book. A cover letter for journal submission. Your letter to the editor, extremely important, and you will see in a moment, I think I show you another one of my letters. We're talking to the editor. You need to say what you're sending them and why it is important and why it needs to be published in their journal. I haven't yet posted this to the readings folder. I will do so by the time this video goes live. So I'm just making a little note for myself. to do that. Week 3. These are the main headings in the chapter. I need to work on my abstract as well. When people do searches, they are going to search for various keywords, looking to see what has been published before. And if you want your article to get found and to get cited, your abstract needs to be good. Everyone reads the abstract first, then you decide whether to read it or not. Getting cited, I spoke about Ral Ball citations. Rajgopal has a similar list of highly impressive citations. Ingredients. This is one area where I would say don't ask AI to write the abstract for you, but just ask AI for the main points that you should put into it. Let it come up with that list. Then put this right next to that list and see between the two, you should get something pretty good. Number 1, summarize. Tell a story. Research question. Why it's important. And I've looked at my own abstract. I only have one sentence in there as to why it's important. I think I need to bolster that. So I'm going to be working on my work at the same time you're working on your work. Only the main ones. Briefly. And we're going to see some horrible abstracts where in fact they start off with saying what their method is. Verbs. I don't remember much from high school. I don't think it was a very good high school. But I do remember they told me verbs are doing words, and in 2 slides from now, I will give you a list of all the verbs you ever wanted and more. Keywords. I've seen some horrible lists. I reviewed a paper on earnings management in Poland. In other words, they were looking for signs of financial statement manipulation, and the data source was a set of Polish companies. One of their keywords which shocked me was Poland. How on earth do they actually expect their article to be found when one of their keywords is Poland? Nobody is going to say, I'm looking for earnings management articles, financial statement fraud, financial statement misconduct, executive malpractice. Oh, how about I type Poland in as another keyword? Be a self-contained whole. It should make sense to people in your field without their reading the whole article. I try to do that. I think I'm on track, but I need more work in my own abstract. Heavens, no footnotes, citations, quotations, acronyms. We'll see in a moment that there are exceptions to that rule. Here we go. All the verbs that you ever wanted to know, and probably more. Bloom's taxonomy, extremely famous. You can do a Google search on it, and enjoy yourself. This is what I call a structured abstract. I've had to do it before, and I'm trying to see if I have an example of my structured abstract here. In fact, I did. On the first slide, there we go. We are now on 29. There. This journal had a structured abstract. In other words, they give you the headings. They give you the word count, which is higher than normal. And here we go. Next to each of these headings, you need to give your details. And this is extremely helpful. I can skip things if I don't want to read, and I can read some things twice that I do want to read. Structured abstract, there we go. Our author gives an example of a structured abstract, and you will find that, of course, in the book. Checklist. Generally, 150 words is the maximum for the American Accounting Association journals. It starts getting hard to cut it down further than that. The professional accounting journals will want something even shorter, and they might not call it an abstract. They might call it a summary, and we've seen summary a little. There we go. This was current issues in auditing. You can see the word summary. It is not abstract. We can see another word there, and we can see another word there. So not always going to be called abstract. Relevant keywords, not Poland. A statement of the hypothesis or argument, or in our case, we would call that a research question. I need to strengthen that in my abstract. Can stand alone. And reveals, you can see the most interesting, this is the second time she said it, not everything, just the main points. You cannot go in your abstract by saying something like, going forward, we hope that future research will address heavens alive. Going forward should never be in your abstract. Not a weak attempt at language. You have all the verbs you ever need. Some abbreviations or acronyms are okay. We'll see in a moment. Heavens alive, no citations or footnotes. Doesn't start with data or methods. I've seen it, and I will continue seeing it for a long time. This is just one of the gems in this paper, in this whole book. The daily writing, page 175, how your study should fit into the rest. Remember, they're talking about recommendations, but not future research. Well, this is where I will be on November 7th and 8th. Each year. I enjoy going. Featured speaker, I'm there. And if I must say so myself, you do want your professors appearing at top conferences. It makes your degree look better. Here is my presentation. Here is my abstract. And My claim for significance. Lower unemployment numbers would create an incorrect, more favorable perception of economic performance. The sentence is good, but I need to strengthen it to bolster my claim for significance. And I need to tidy it up. At the moment, it's 150 words. I think some work is needed here, but that's what this book is all about. It's revising and making things better. We've seen this one before, and I just want to show you the abstract is not always called an abstract. Here we go, in brief. Back to current issues in auditing. And again, summary, not abstract. And by the way, you can use US or UK as an abbreviation or an acronym. Everybody knows what that means. This is an auditing journal, so PCAOB is okay as well. However, you will see critical audit matters, they give the written out version and they give the abbreviation. Going back. They don't say US is United States, but they do, in this case, spell out what PCAOB is. They do spell out what critical audit matters is. I leave it up to you to go back and to have a look at the notes in the book. Let's have a look at some examples. I'm going to pause it. I'm going to let you read the abstract and the answers, and I will be back with you in a few seconds. I'm back. This is a real abstract. I'm looking over here and I see absolutely no mention of the methods used. You can pause, have a look at the abstract, have a look at the options, and I'll be back whenever you press play again. A real article, a real everything. Here we go. The abstract includes a citation. You would think the authors would know better, but obviously they haven't read our book with a green cover. I'll pause. You can look. I'm back. The purpose of the study is to use 4 techniques, these are scores, to detect fraud in Tesco's financial statements. Again, somebody hasn't read our green book, no stated argument, no research question. What are you looking for? And no claim for significance. Why is this at all important? Probably because it isn't important. Let me pause. You pause. This one is so awful that there are two correct answers. The abstract contains abbreviations and acronyms. We've got a LIBOR over there. Number 2, the article includes a citation, so answer F is also correct. As if this wasn't bad enough as an example of a horrible abstract, we're talking about a citation here. Cressy 1953 is correct. Then we go and make an error and reuse the citation but change the date to an incorrect date, 1993. It's a real paper. You can search for it, you'll find the paper, and you'll find this abstract. Once again, this is my managerial accounting article. You can see the numbers are there, and you can see what I have there is a structured abstract. Back again, Zotero. If you start using it, you will find it's reasonably easy to use, painless, and once you get over the learning curve, you'll be on your way up and running. Again, you want your research to fit in somewhere. However, I'm not proposing anything to the editor about research. I saw this in the Journal of Accountancy, and again, this is just an example of writing to the editor. I write to the editor, congratulations on your appointment. Your promotion is well deserved, and he is still editor. Congratulations on your November article. And here I say, if you want to assemble a task group or a working group to formulate a policy on the use of ChatGPT to write articles, please consider including me in the group. I say, note the following. And I say, I am concerned that your freelance writers will be tempted to use AI such as Kahubi to write articles for you. He basically came back and said, we already have a policy, and that policy is absolutely no AI should be used at any stage in the writing of the article. And so my message to you is, be very careful. Don't use AI. If you are tempted to use it, check the journal first, see what their policies are. You don't want to exclude yourself by using it and then seeing that the policy says no. Module 5 coming up. I will see you again in a week. We will talk about selecting a journal. And your graded activity, there is nothing for next week. I'm expecting you to work on your article, focusing on this, and that. Daily writing, practice and research, Ball and Basu, abstracts, some feedback, not even a hint of a mention of talking to any practitioner. Using Zotero, I just mentioned it, and a little bit about the next module where you don't have anything to submit. These are the dates for our upcoming recorded, and our live session will be on November 30th. But again, I will post a recording so you can watch it at your leisure. And I will be available in December 2025 if you want to talk one-on-one. In fact, I would be happy to talk to you.